This morning, I was just a drop. A single drop that soon became a river. In this river, hope was born. From this hope rose a raging flood, a tidal wave of change. And if anyone stands against that tide, tonight we will become a revolution.
Well, what a trailer, let me just tell you. Okay, so,
Yeah, that was made by someone who never played the game.
yeah, hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Assassin's Creed Ranked, where we play each one of the Assassin's Creed games and put it on a tier list to decide which Assassin's Creed games are top tier and which ones are bottom tier. We've made our way through the first game, the Ezio Trilogy, Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and Assassin's Creed Rogue. And now we finally get into one of the newer evolutions of the games, Assassin's Creed Unity. Now, this one was played by Lark, not by me. I'm currently working on Syndicate. So, Lark, your thoughts about the game?
I'm sorry if I sound a little bit off, guys. The game literally made me sick.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, this is probably the first one the first Assassin's Creed game, I would actually say you can skip.
Yeah.
Because, like, even with 3, I harped on 3 a good bit, and I have issues with Connor and some of the other characters. But I would still say give it a playthrough, because you're still going to have some fun. With this one, some of you might enjoy it, but it's the first one I would say, like, if you're a little hesitant, just skip it. Because the overall narrative, not a problem. Don't worry about it. You're missing nothing. I would say there's very little of note you're missing with this game.
I think what I find so funny about this game is Assassin's Creed Rogue ended to set this up. You know, the whole last mission in Rogue was intended to set up this whole game.
Yeah.
And not only does Rogue have nothing to do with this game outside of Arno's father being killed, but even the game itself doesn't care about Arno's father being killed.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that, yeah. But okay, so before we get into it, just a reminder to everyone: here's how we do the tier list. So we basically score each game by story. How good is the story? History. How historically accurate is it? Gameplay, how good is the gameplay, and characters, are the characters sound. And then we tally it up, average it out, and that gives us our tier. So let's jump right into it, because I know we could rant all day. Let's try not to. Let's go into the story. So how's the story, Lark?
It ain't good. So, as you mentioned previously, Rogue was really designed to set this game up, and Rogue, for all of its faults, did a beautiful job setting it up, because, by golly, Shay Cormac, he set himself up as like, hey, I killed this guy's father. And I'm like, oh, he's going to be like one of the main villains. Oh my gosh, this is going to be so cool. Do we ever see Shay in Unity? No. Do they ever allude to Shay in Unity? Not really. You can find his outfit, but that's it.
Does the guy he killed have any relevance on the characters?
No, and that's the thing. Like, you kill, the main character of this is Arno Dorian. Now, the game starts out with you in Versailles. Actually, no. Forgive me. No, it doesn't. The game starts out with you playing Abstergo's new Helix thing, where you basically get to relive specific memories that they've set up. And basically, this is a giant middle finger to the Assassin's Creed community, because you get to see a lot of things. So it's like, hey, wouldn't some of these be cool? Like, going to China with Xiao Jun, or, playing around in some of these cool areas. Yeah, I really like that. Well, guess what? No. But we are going to give you a little taste. Here's what it would have looked like if you saw the fall of the Templars in the 14th century. It's like, wow, that was really cool. I really like being in the 14th century. Did you? Well, guess what? You're never going back. It's like, you taunt us with how cool this idea would be, and then you never visit it again.
Well, let's get back to the story.
Yeah, well, anyway. after you play through that little thing, and the Templars basically say, it was such a tragedy that the Templars were driven underground. Isn't it so sad?
Consumed in flames of hunger and wrath, thus came the age of true wisdom to a blistering close. The Knights Templar, once the proud shepherds of order, peace, and illumination, were no more.
And then an assassin named Bishop contacts you and goes, hey, I need you to sequence some memories so we can find the corpse of a sage, because there's another one now.
Yeah.
So that we can stop Abstergo from, like, sequencing precursor memories. Like, okay, thanks for recruiting me, I guess.
They're running out of reasons to make games.
they were really running just like, hey, like, and there was a couple occasions where you, like, flash into them. It was like, okay, I need you to follow, like, if you click X on this, there's no turning back. You're one of us now.
But we won't share these things with just anyone. By pressing play, you'll be joining the assassins. If you want to fight the Templar menace, if you're willing to save civilization from Abstergo's clutches, press play, sit back, and ready yourself for the truth.
And I'm just like, what if I don't want to? What, like, imagine this from, like, the guy of the, like, I mean, we're all playing an Assassin's Creed game, but imagine, like, from the perspective of the poor schlub that's actually living in that world. It's like, I just wanted to have something to do on my off time, man. I didn't sign up for no underground war. But yeah, so that's ridiculous, and so they say, we're going to go to the French Revolution because this assassin fought a sage, and you got to find out where we buried him. So you're not looking so much for a piece of Eden, you're looking for just the bones of some dude. Yay.
Hooray.
Now, it starts off right where Rogue ended. Basically, your father leads you to the Palace de Versailles, and he says, all right, I want you to stay here now. Stay here, I'll be back and he gives you a watch, and he says, when this hits the top, I will be back, and then we can go see fireworks or something. And Arno's like, okay. And then enter Elise, who basically is a girl about your age and says, hey, instead of following your father's wishes, come follow me and let's mess up the Palace de Versailles. And, well, you're going to miss a chance to mess up Versailles? Absolutely not. So you follow her around, get into some shenanigans, and you come back and realize, oh, Shay's killed your dad. Oh, no! This is such a tragic story, and they forget about it within 9 minutes, because out comes Monsieur de la Serre, who is the Grand Master of the Templar Order in France, and he basically says, hey, kid, sorry your dad died. By the way, would you like me to adopt you? You're not getting a choice. Come with me, kid.
I love you, new daddy.
And so we flash forward to years later, where Arno has grown up under Monsieur de la Serre, and Arno at first does not know that Monsieur de la Serre is a Templar, or that Elise is a Templar, or anything like that. He just sort of, like, he didn't understand the war. That's fair enough. And so he grows up having a crush on Elise. Elise loves him back, but Monsieur de la Serre doesn't want the two to get together because he knows what a terrible games plot that would make. But unfortunately, through some shenanigans, Monsieur de la Serre is killed by his own Templars. But Arno is framed for it, and there is a little bit of responsibility that relies on Arno's shoulders because there were some people trying to warn de Serre, and it's like, you have to give him this note immediately, and he tries to hunt him down, doesn't find him, and says, I'll just leave it on his desk. And then he goes about his business, but unfortunately that letter was a warning saying, hey, look out, some people are out to kill you. But, alas, he gets killed, Arno gets accused of it, and gets thrown in the Bastille, where he meets Bellic, who is an assassin going like, wait a minute, you can see crap on the walls? Yeah, your new name is now Pisspot, but actually it's Arno, it's Pisspot.
Where'd you come by this, Pisspot? Pisspot.
Pisspot! Pisspot!
Pisspot.
Pisspot!
We Pisspot.
And so Belloc basically teaches you on how to be an assassin, saying, hey, by the way, your dad was an assassin. I know because I recognize this watch. And yeah, that's about the only connection like Arno ever gets about like his father. Like, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, so they bust out of the Bastille on Bastille Day because, it's being stormed. So they break out, and he says, Arno, I want you to join the assassins. Here's how to find us. And so they go in. Arno finds the assassins in their little underground sanctuary, and they make him drink some trippy drug stuff, and then he just sort of freaks out. After having a weird little psychedelic episode, there's like, all right, you're now an assassin, and I'm just going, now hold on. I've played several Assassin's Creed games up until this point. I do not remember any psychedelic nonsense to get recruited. So anyway, so they induct him into the Assassins, and he starts working under Bellic to basically, investigate what's going on, only to find out there was actually a truce between the Assassins and the Templars, between one of the main assassins and Monsieur de la Serre, which is now ruined now because Monsieur de la Serre got axed. And so, Arno, despite the wishes of the Assassins, wants to avenge Monsieur de la Serre to try and, redeem himself for kind of letting him get killed. And so, that's the whole purpose of Arno's mission. He has a twofold purpose. One, avenge the death of Monsieur de la Serre.
But bringing Monsieur de la Serre's killer to justice would count for something, wouldn't it? I owe it to the memory of Monsieur de la Serre to uncover the truth.
Monsieur de la Serre.
Not his father. He does not give a crap about his father. I mean, sure, if he loses his precious watch and he wants it back, but he could not give a crap about who killed his father, why his father was killed, or the fact that the people that were complicit in his father's murder were the ones that took him in and possibly led him away so that he couldn't see his father's death. Does not cross his mind. But Monsieur de la Serre, that guy he wants to avenge. Partially because he thinks it'll help him get into Elise's pants.
What I wanted was you. I can't bear the fact that my carelessness got your father killed. Everything I've done since then has been to fix that mistake and to prevent it from happening again.
Yeah, and that's the second reason, just because I love Elise, because we can't have a French assassin and not have a love story. Heaven forbid. I kind of respect Connor now for not getting involved in any love stories in the game. He kind of knew where that would go. I appreciate that, Connor. I apologize.
Oh, you're sorry.
Anyway, so you hunt through several Templars throughout the French Revolution. I'm not going to go into them in great detail because the game certainly doesn't. Literally, the game will just goes like, oh, hey, by the way, this guy's doing something bad. Go stop him. It's like, okay. It's not like Assassin's Creed 1 or 2 or 3 where you have to sort of figure out and slowly learn what each Templar's kind of doing. They just kind of throw it at you like, hey, they're bad guys, go get them. I go, okay. And then eventually you find the new Grand Templar Master who was the one who had Monsieur de la Serre killed, who is a sage, and you go after him. Oh yeah, there's a brief episode where the assassins boot you out because you're not actually an assassin for sake of being an assassin. You're an assassin just for your own personal vendetta.
This would happen. I told Mirabeau that you were too obsessed with your personal vendettas.
This is why I joined the Brotherhood.
Yes, not because you shared our ideas or felt called to the service. For revenge.
For redemption.
Call it what you will. You've defied the orders of this council repeatedly, pursued targets without sanction, and flouted our creed at every step.
After Trenet?
In light of these actions, I find I have no choice but to call for a vote of expulsion.
Well, I mean, what did you expect? You're basically dragging this dude in. I think my biggest problem with the story, to put a point on it, is the fact that the whole story revolves around, it doesn't really have a clear consensus and nothing seems to flow. And what I mean by that is, the game opens with Arno's father being killed. He's upset about it, but it has no impact on his character. He doesn't seem to care throughout the game. Like, he doesn't try to find out who killed his father or why his father was killed. Even after he finds out his father was an assassin, he doesn't try to find out, okay, was it something he knew? Was it something he wanted? Was it something he was after that got him killed? He doesn't try to look into it. He doesn't try to look into, how he could possibly live up to his father's expectations or anything like that. We don't know how much of a relationship he even had with his father. And then you have his goal is to avenge the death of his adopted father. So the guy who adopted him and who he realizes probably had a hand in his father's death, he's the one he cares about the most. And the only reason we think he cares about him so much is because he loves Elise. And then he finds out Elise could be his enemy. It turned...
Yeah, he never considers Elise an enemy for a second, even though figuring, oh, hey, you're part of that organization that killed my actual dad. He never questions it. Never just... No.
He's kind of stupid. But they constantly portray him as the one who's smarter than everyone else. And the assassins, I think it's so funny that the assassins say, you don't actually believe in our creed. You never believed in our creed. Well, think about this, dumbass. I mean, it's like you dragged me into this. I lost my father to this war. I didn't care about that. My adopted father is dead. I don't care about that unless it has to do with, like, banging my new girlfriend, who's also one of your enemies. What makes you think I'm going to care about the Creed? You haven't raised me in the Creed. You haven't taught me anything about the Creed. The only induction I had into your stupid Creed was a stupid psychedelic episode that made no sense.
Holy crap, I am freaking out.
You haven't explained to me the meaning of it. You haven't explained to me the purpose of it. Do they even explain why it's important? Here's the best part about it all. The Templars and the Assassins have a truce, right?
Yeah, at the very beginning of the game, and it gets broken.
Right. Well, no, hear me out. The Templars want tyranny, and the Assassins want freedom. So who are they supporting? Do the Templars support a specific king over another? Do the Assassins support a specific king over another? Does one support a cause that the other doesn't support? Like, what are they doing to make their changes a reality? Even if they have a truce right now, the entire French area is just messed up. There's a whole revolution going on and everything's chaotic. You'd think this would be the time for the Templars to step in and say, let's restore order. Or you'd think this would be the time for the Assassins to step in and say, let's restore liberty to the people. No, there's none of that. That never is. The whole ideal of the Templar and Assassin seems to be pushed to the side.
Well, actually, to the villain's credit, at least, he actually explains why he was orchestrating a large part of the French Revolution. Yeah, that's right. The French Revolution was orchestrated not by the Assassins, but by the Templars. And it was purely because he wanted to bring in as much chaos as possible so that when he finally brought in his new shadow regime to control, he would basically say, I want to remind them why they want to be controlled so much, because this is what chaos leads to. And so I can get behind that, though they only briefly mention that. And then after you kill all of these, Templar targets, then eventually you and Elise, both disowned by their own organizations, decide to go after the main bad guy. You go and you find him, and he has the Sword of Eden, which shoots laser beams, because, why not? And after a tragic fight, you manage to knock him down, but you get trapped under rocks, and Elise tries to get them off, but instead of finishing that, she says, you know what, I'm going to try go body checking the guy with a super powerful laser beam shooting artifact. And of course, she died.
Elise! 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 Elise!
At least you died for honor and my amusement.
And then Arno goes over and gets the rock off, goes over and kills him. And yeah, and then after that he has a depressive episode where basically he becomes an edgy nihilist, where basically the Creed isn't give us license to do whatever we want. It's like, yes, we know, we've seen that in 3 different games now. It's like, but it's actually a warning. And like, okay. And then he goes off about like how there is no actual father of understanding guiding, looking over us. There is no whatever. It's like everything begins and ends with us. And
the creed of the Assassin Brotherhood teaches us that nothing is forbidden to us. Once, I thought that meant we were free to do as we would, to pursue our ideals no matter the cost. I understand now. Not a grant of permission, the creed is a warning. Ideals too easily give way to dogma. Dogma becomes fanaticism. No higher power sits in judgment of us. No supreme being watches to punish us for our sins. In the end, only we ourselves can guard against our obsessions. Only we can decide whether the road we walk carries too high a toll. We believe ourselves redeemers, avengers, saviors. We make war on those who oppose us, and they in turn make war on us. We dream of leaving our stamp upon the world. Even as we give our lives in a conflict that will be recorded in no history book. All that we do, all that we are, begins and ends with ourselves.
I'm sorry, guy, but that doesn't make a modicum of sense to me because it's so incredibly fucking
This is all, like, you can try and sound all psychological, like philosophical right now. We all know you're just riding a depressive low because of your girlfriend getting axed.
So let's move on. We've been on this too long. How would you rate the story?
Story is a D. The story is a D. Like, it's the sad thing is they could have really had something cool here, but they have their priorities in the wrong place. A lot of the Templar missions feel incredibly rushed. And, like, very few of them, like, the only one that I say that is actually somewhat memorable is Maximilian Robespierre, and that's purely because I actually remember him from genuine history. Speaking of which...
Let's move on to history. So how would you rank history?
History, they do actually quite well here. History, I'm giving an S.
All right. History's an S. Awesome.
Allow me to explain. Paris feels like it should for the French Revolution. It is literal chaos 100% all the time. People running up and accusing people in the streets of like, oh, you're not revolutionary enough, you're counter-revolutionary, and then just straight up killing them. People getting accused and throwing under the guillotine running around the clock. There's a lot of stuff, and a lot of details they get right. What's ironic is, if you really want to see the history, you have to do some of the co-op missions, which kind of branch off from the main story, where they show Danton, Robespierre, and they show a lot of things going quite well. Not to mention, the real reason this is good, because normally I would give this an A, but it's getting an S because here's the thing. In 2019, the Notre Dame Cathedral caught on fire and was partially destroyed. Ubisoft, in response, made Unity free for a little while so that people could actually explore Notre Dame to see what it looked like before it got burned. And they also donated to the reconstruction effort. And so because of that, and they were allowed people to use their game as a historical resource, it already did a good job in history, but because of that, I'm going to give it bump it up to S. So history overall, I think they did a phenomenal job, even down to the point where they have Robespierre shot through the mouth before he goes to the guillotine. So excellent work with history. If you know anything about the French Revolution, you know they did their homework for the most part.
Yep, I would agree with that. You know more about the French Revolution than I do, so S seems fair. All right, now let's talk about gameplay. How's the gameplay?
The gameplay for this game kind of goes in a bell curve. It starts out kind of meh, gets really good, and then it goes back down to because here's the problem. They were hearing a lot of criticisms like, hey, you know, the counter kill system is kind of too easy. We kind of want a little bit more challenge, so they tried to work with that. However, they kind of screwed it up because here's the thing. You'll have enemies that can start from level 1, which are basically babies. You can kill them without any problem, up to level 5, which are dodge-happy deities, because they can do whatever the heck they want. They can dodge gunshots, they can do anything. They are not unkillable, but it takes a lot of concerted effort to put them down, and if you are fighting a group of them, you're either going to have to cheese your way out with some smoke bombs, or you're going to have another plan. And that wouldn't be so bad if they're like, hey, we want you to rely more on stealth. And they do add some interesting things with the stealth mechanics, like you can crouch around to reduce your vision, you can cover behind objects. But the problem is they took away some of your stealth kit, like you no longer can whistle to attract people to try and assassinate them, which really, really would have benefited the stealth in this game. But the problem is the guards are hypersensitive. Like before, if like a guard started suspicious, you could sort of rush them and kill them before they were able to get out. But no, they will snap to almost instantaneously. And then if that happens, there's a good chance a bunch of other guards are going to come through, and then you're going to have to go back to what I was talking about previously.
One thing that I think you pointed out is that the developers, I think they knew that the stealth was bad, because it's one of the only games that we've played in Assassin's Creed where there is no desynchronization penalty for being detected. Like literally, they must have realized it is too hard not to be noticed. Let's just make it that you don't get desynchronized.
Yeah. Another thing that they tried to add in though, which I kind of appreciate. Like if you notice in the trailer, it's like, oh hey, look, there's so many assassins, and you might think, oh, that's because we're going to kind of go back to Brotherhood. We're going to recruit people into the Brotherhood. No, It's because you get to play, and there are some missions called co-op missions where you get to play along up to 3 other players and do some sort of side missions. Now, it's okay, but it's not like anything to write home about. It's just kind of, well, this was interesting. And typically what it involves into 4 people moving into one objective, one of them or 2 of them get caught in a fight, and then you have to go and bail each other out or have them bail you out. You're wrong. It's just kind of meh overall, and this late into the game, there's very few people playing the co-op missions. It's kind of an interesting idea, but I see why they never revisited it. And so there was that, but oh, and also another thing I want to talk about is the gadgets. The gadgets, they took away a lot of the stuff that you saw in previous games, and what they replaced them with isn't really all that great. Like, for example, you no longer have a gun attached to your wrist blade, but, that's been gone for a while because you have an actual gun. But the gun doesn't always work as well as it should, like it can take up to 2 shots to put somebody down. But they give you what's called a phantom blade, meaning basically like a crossbow that's attached to your wrist. And you might think, oh, that's pretty cool. However, it's not a guaranteed one-shot kill, and that's your only stealth long-range weapon. They also give you berserk darts, but you can typically only carry about 2, and they don't work near as well as the previous games, which I'm kind of appreciative of. There's cherry bomb lures, but that's the only lure you really have. There's money grenades, which I don't know why they replaced that with just taking change out of your pocket and throwing it. It makes no sense. And there's also poison gas, which is not really effective. And that's the problem. Most of the gadgets and tools you get are effective on lower level mobs, but once you get in the later game where everybody's a 4 or 5, they're worthless. And so that really hurts. That's why the game plays in a bell curve, because in the middle game, when you're just running around exploring Paris and shivving stuff, it can be a lot of fun. But towards the end of the game, as you're crunching time, it's very difficult and very annoying.
So what rank did you give gameplay?
I gave gameplay a C overall, because there are points at times where they're enjoyable. Like seeing, because you have certain things that the mocapping for the fighting is actually really cool. And so it can be fun to watch, but at the same time, it can be frustrating to play. So it's not completely worthless, but at the same time, I think it could have used with maybe another year of development to refine it.
All right, and what would you say about the characters? Let's try to limit it to... Because I think one of the things about this game is we spend so little time outside of the Animus, it's almost pointless to even talk about. The only real difference with this game and the others is you don't leave the Animus. Basically, occasionally your gameplay gets interrupted by this lady who works with the assassins named Bishop, who basically tells you to... who basically keeps reminding you, hey, you're working for us now. You're with us now.
Yeah, they take you through these helix rifts where basically you go to Paris and other time periods. The first time they take you to Paris in the 1890s, and they say actually, this is a Paris I'd actually like to visit. Oh, gee, thanks for giving me the one nobody wanted to visit. And,
I think that is kind of...
Oh, and even better, the second time you go through, you go into Nazi-occupied Paris to climb the Eiffel Tower, and you literally shoot at the Luftwaffe with an MG-42. And I'm just what game am I playing right now? It's hey, you know how you all been asking for a World War II Assassin's Creed game? Well, here it is, and it's never happening again.
I think that's my biggest problem with Unity right there. Before we even get into characters, I'm just going to say it. I feel like it basically knew what we wanted and said, we're going to tease that and then never give it to you. Because think about it. They show you the map of where all the Assassin and Templar places are, those little key points, making you know, oh, there's Japan, there's China, we wanted those, send us there. Not going to do it. And then they put us in the French Revolution, which is scummy and crappy, but then literally have us jump through different time eras throughout history that would have been so much more engaging and fun.
Another issue I have with this, it's kind of similar to problem I have with 3. This has to do with gameplay. I'll be very brief. In the American Revolution, we only stay, in the north, New York, Boston, that sort of thing. But at least they let us explore a little bit around more. In Unity, you are just stuck to Paris and Versailles. There were other events that happened outside in the French Revolution. There were other events that went on, and it would have been nice to kind of explore other towns and other cities and see what went on there. But no, you're just stuck to Paris, which kind of gets old after a while. But yeah, that's why gameplay's not doing so hot.
All right, characters
is they're getting a C.
Okay.
Now, Arno, somebody actually said accused us of not liking certain characters because they weren't white and they weren't playboys. Well, Arno is kind of a playboy, and he definitely is white, but I'm still not that great of a fan of him.
I hate him.
Yeah, he has. There are certain times where like there's a bit of charm to him, but it's also kind of like when the assassins point out, you're here for a vendetta, you're not here for the creed. I'm kind of like, they're right.
But do not confuse your personal vendetta with a sound strategy.
His sole focus is on trying to, one, bang Elise, and to avenge Monsieur de la Serre, but that's, again, to make sure that he doesn't feel guilty about banging Elise. And I'm just going, like, that's not what I wanted to see in my Assassin's Creed game. I mean, I'm not okay with a little bit of romance here and there, but, like, the fact that it's his sole driving factor really irritated me, considering that there's a lot of suffering and pain going on in the French Revolution, and that's what his single-minded determination and drive. And so, Arno, I feel, could have been handled much better. Elise, they try and play off as like, oh yeah, she's quick-witted, she's got a good head on her shoulders, but any mission with her, it's just kind of like, why are you here? You are making this more harder than it needs to be. And so, I'm not a real big fan of Elise. Like, she's okay, I guess, but she can irritate me at times.
Don't. You think he'll be so careless now, knowing how close at heel we are? You were given a golden opportunity to end his life, and you refused to take it.
To save your life?
It isn't yours to save.
What are you saying?
I'm willing to risk everything to put Jamal down. If you don't have the stomach for revenge, then I don't need your help.
Elise. Elise!
Many months later.
You look like hell.
You look like you want something from me.
That's a fine thing to say after you up and vanish.
Hold on. This whole operation was your idea.
Bellic, he irritates me because he constantly calls me Pisspot, but at the same time, I understand because he's talking to Arno. But at the same time, Bellic has to be killed later on because he is ostensibly right about how the creed should be interpreted.
We have risen anew, stronger than ever. But now, we've lost our purpose, Arno. We mired ourselves in politics and revolutions, but we're not a nation. We're an army. And in an army, making peace with the enemy is called treason. No. I'm not the only one that can save the Brotherhood. We can.
Was a hero. I just couldn't see it.
But yeah, and then there's some of the assassin mentors, 3 of which are there, and they have some speaking lines, but I don't remember their names. And then there's the other one that gets killed by Bellic, which he was okay, I guess. Problem is, a lot of important characters really don't get enough screen time to really flesh them out or do anything. Another problem is, like in every other Assassin's Creed game up until this point, and then even after this point, when you kill somebody, you sort of have a talk with them where basically they sort of lay out why they did what they did, their motivations, their regrets, that sort of thing. In this one, you don't do that. In this one, you just relive their memories. And then sometimes that actually hurts them because it's so, like, you're going, wait, what happened? Literally, there's one Templar you kill where his whole reason for joining the Templars was because he was a fan of a speech that one of the Master Assassins gave, and he goes to go shake his hand, and then he says, oh, dude, not right now. And because he got snubbed on a handshake, the literal Master of the Templars walks up behind him and says, isn't it sad? Want to join the Templar Order and kill some people? Yeah. I was like, how'd you jump from that to that?
Here's the thing, and essentially, the characters are crap. What did you give them?
I said I give them a C because they're like, it's hard to give them like too bad of a grade because they're not most of them aren't egregious. It's just there's not much there. I mean, I liked where some of them were going. I think if Bellic had had more time to be fleshed out, I think it could have been more interesting. Arno could have been more interesting if they gave him like more drive and direction, made him see the world outside of just I love Elise. Elise could have been more interesting if she started to question, like, because here's the thing, it's like, I question the Assassin's Creed. Is it really everything it should be? But at no point does Elise go, you know, the Templars killed my father, who was a Grand Master, and they're also responsible for my best friend and lover's father's death. Maybe I need to reassess how maybe the Templars aren't as good as I thought. But she doesn't have to question any of her motives or goals or anything like that. No. So I would have liked to see more character development with her, and that's the thing. There's just a lack of character development. I feel like this is probably the first of the really rushed Assassin's Creed games.
It felt rushed, but I think my biggest problem in it like, first of all, let's just go ahead and say, after tallying it all up and getting the average, the overall game gets a 3.5, which is a C. I almost feel like it should be lower than that, but it gets a C.
The only reason it's not getting lower is because of the history factor. That's the only thing that's holding it up.
Well, regardless of that, my big problem with Unity is it's just another on a trend. I think ever since Rogue, we've been seeing this trend in Assassin's Creed games where, and it kind of stopped at Origins, but for 3 games, Rogue, Unity, and Syndicate most likely, but I haven't finished Syndicate, so we'll see what happens. But there seems to be this trend of Assassin's Creed is trying to the original Assassin's Creed, the first one through the Ezio trilogy, were all about better understanding the creed, understanding what it means to be an assassin, understanding what it means to follow the creed, understanding the purpose and wisdom behind the creed. Then you get Assassin's Creed 3, which is about a character who doesn't care about the creed and just cares about his own goals and vendetta, and it never even ties into the creed in the end. And he gives a dumbass speech about how the people he thought he trusted ended up not being the people he trusted, and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, no one liked that. A lot of people hated that about him. Then you get Black Flag, which tries to return to its roots and have a guy learn what it means to be part of the creed.
Yeah, they just should have sped that up a bit.
They just needed to speed that up. And then we get Rogue. Again, the creed is wrong. I don't believe in the creed anymore. There's all that kind of stuff. And now Unity, once again, it's a character who really doesn't care about the creed. You can't argue, oh, well, he eventually learns to care about the creed. No, I don't think he ever comes to care about the creed. He only joined the Assassins because it's what his father did, and because Bellic says, oh, you've got the watch of your father, so he decides to join, but we have no evidence that he cares about the creed or believes in its motives. He wants to marry a Templar, even though everyone says you shouldn't, but that gives him less reason to follow the creed. It is less about the creed and doing what it says than it is about him finding love. And I think what bothers me so much is no one wanted to see a stupid French Revolution love story. If we wanted to see that, we'd go watch Les Miserables, okay? I think that's what inspired them. They said, hey, Les Miserables was popular. Let's do that just without the music, and let's put assassins in there somehow. And I think that's what really killed this game. It didn't want to tell an Assassin's Creed story. It wanted to tell a love story with assassins involved. And you can tell that because the main character doesn't care about the assassins. The girl doesn't care about the Templars. It is just a mess. It is a mess the whole way through. I don't care if you want to have a love story in Assassin's Creed, but it cannot detract from Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I feel like there probably was some Les Miserables reference, even though Les Miserables technically takes place afterwards, but still, it's just...
You get my point.
Yeah, I get your point. It's just... Unity, it was a headache for me. And I appreciate some of the things they were trying to do with it, but they didn't have... I don't think they had enough development time to truly flesh it out. And the problem is, I feel like a lot of stuff in Unity was inadvertently the middle finger to the players. And then it's followed up a year later with what I would argue probably one of the worst Assassin's Creed games, if not the worst. But that's for next time. So, overall, again, ranking is a C. This one was really, really rough to get through. And, yeah, well, I guess we will just see you in the next time.
Alright, guys, well, hope you enjoyed this one, and we will see you in our next video. Take care.